Hello, Happy New Year to all of you, my viewers, my fans, my followers, those who have no idea who I am. I am Tracy B., the divorce solutionist. I am a divorce and custody strategist, consultant, and coach. I am a former family law attorney, but I only practice in very limited circumstances. For the most part, I spend 95% of my time doing strategizing with those who are going through custody and or divorce, coaching and or consulting. Um, it is 2021 and I am excited because there is so much I plan to accomplish this month. First, I want to put out there that my new membership based subscription program is starting very soon. It was supposed to start January 4th of this year, but I had some really scary personal situations come up in the last few weeks. So I pushed everything back, I threw everything off. But that is still coming forward very soon. I am also working on a course for those who are going through divorce or custody. I'm going to do one for each, and it's self-paced, but it gives a little spin on the typical divorce courses that are out there. Mine, as you most of you know, or if you don't know, my focus is always on strategy. Strategy is always the key, is in everything that I do, in every family law case that I get involved with, or not, even if it's not family law, because I do some other stuff occasionally. But I'm always focused on strategy. But I specifically and particularly focus on strategy in divorce and custody, because in family court, that's what a lot of it is. Family court is not just about the law. It's about so many other things. It's justice, it's social services, it's so many other things. So, and to prevail, I don't like to say win, but to prevail or get the outcome you want, it takes more than knowing what the law is. And that is for you, that is for me, that is for anybody who finds themselves in a family court, excuse me, I just ate my dinner and I'm trying to digest it. That's for anybody who's involved in any sort of case in family court, especially custody and or divorce. And I say family court, I don't mean literally family court, because some jurisdictions call it something different. But if family court is where they address most matrimonial family law related issues. So I'm using that term to encompass all of those. So anyway, which brings me to today's topic. Now, the last live I did, I discussed mental health in custody, and I promised that I would focus on mental health of kids or children and custody visitation. And I am going to do that. I'm just not going to do that today. Two reasons. One, it takes a little bit more preparation to do that. And because mental health is my first profession, actually, I actually did some mental health before I actually went to law school, but it takes a little bit more research and preparation for that. And two, because today's topic is something that I wanted to start the year off with, because I've been getting a lot of questions and a lot of comments in both groups that I either administer or co-administer, administer or administrate, whatever. And so I wanted to talk about it. I think this is the perfect topic to start the year off with. Let me just say this too. Those of you who are in my group, who are watching this from my group, the Divorce Glow Up, is particularly for anyone who's going through custody or divorce, represented or unrepresented. The purpose of that group is to give you a lot of information to help you along in your case, feeling empowered, feeling enlightened, feeling supported, feeling understood, I try to provide not, I'm trying to think of the word, like a container where you feel like you can do this, whether you have an attorney or not, because custody, especially custody, can be so gut wrenching that I wanted to provide a space where I can help you as much as I can. I'm saying that to say that I recently created a group just for pro se litigants. And that group is for those who are not represented by our attorneys, who are dealing with their case on their own, who may need some sort of guidance in that capacity from a professional. And that group, if you are represented by an attorney, that's not the group for you, because and if I find out that someone's represented by an attorney in that group, I will remove them. And I have my reasons. But those of you who are unrepresented, whether you're in my current group or you're just watching this live from my page or anywhere else from YouTube, the pro se group is specifically for pro se litigants in the United States. Now, I get a lot of Canadian requests, but I don't really know anything about Canada's family law. So I don't really want to mislead anybody by having them in that group and them getting answers and resources. Some of the resources actually apply no matter where you are, but it's really focused on the United States residents only, or unless you live abroad, because someone contacted me the other day. They live abroad in the UK, but they're from the States, and I think their divorce is actually in the States, so that's different. But that group is called Pro Se Divorce and Custody, and I have intentions for that group. That group is going to be a little bit more instructional, and so that's why if you have an attorney and you are in that group, it's probably going to seem confusing for you. It may be helpful, but I just don't want it, because I do some of the same things I cover are in this group as well, but I specifically focus in this group on anybody who's going through divorce and custody. So whether you have an attorney or your coach, whatever you have, whoever you're working with or not, so I wanted to put that out there. So anyway, today's topic is getting the most out of your attorney. Now, as I mentioned, I don't actually represent litigants in court anymore, because I want to be location free. Like I can, do what I'm doing from anywhere in the world. I think I mentioned before that my plan is to world school my son. And that was actually supposed to start last month, but because of what I went through in the last few weeks, we had to put that off. But anyway, I digress. So I am here now to talk about how, if I was an attorney, how you could best utilize me and your own attorney, if you have one now, to suit you. And I'm bringing this up, and I might have done a live or a blog or something. Sometimes my material may be repetitive, but I'm always going to have a different spin on it. And it's because I'm always getting questions. I talk about topics that are popular amongst you guys, actually. Whatever you are seeking, whatever you ask about, that's what I do my topics on. Now, if you have any questions, actually, hey, Christina, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to leave me a comment and I will respond. So what I'm doing, I'm looking through my fact patterns, my hypotheticals, my stories or posts to find some typical questions, comments, concerns that I get that actually prompted me to do this week's topic. And okay, here's one. Here's a good one. Someone said, do you recommend a lawyer, a no lawyer? Can I trust him? And if I do, am I naive to believe my lawyer? And should I be afraid if I use one? Okay, this is a compounded thing here, several questions. So let's start with, do I recommend a lawyer? Me. Now, all of this is based on my own personal and professional experience, because as most of you know, I have gone through my own family court issue with my son's father. We weren't married, we were engaged, and we were living together. We did everything but the nuptials. So a lot of what I'm discussing has to do with not just my professional experience, but my personal experience as well. And believe it or not, if we were married and we were going through a divorce, I would have hired a lawyer. I would have hired a lawyer because, that's just the smart thing to do. Now, I would have been, I don't know, what's the word? I would have been very active in my case with my lawyer. I would have done some of the stuff myself, but representation in court, I would have actually hired an attorney if we were going through a divorce. But we didn't have that much. The issues that I had, and with my son's dad, I didn't feel the need to hire a lawyer. We went through a custody, and in New Jersey, it's automatically joint custody. They presume joint custody, and you have to prove some sort of abuse or neglect to get either sole custody or joint legal with sole physical. But I thought actually that I would need an attorney the way it started, but we wind up settling the case. So anyway, sometimes you need a lawyer. Sometimes it depends. You need a lawyer. Some things, I'm going to be very honest with you. Some of the posts and comments and questions I've been getting asked recently, or that have been brought to my attention, where people were spending upwards of $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on just custody alone. Sometimes, no. Sometimes it's that, I'm sorry if there's any lawyers listening but watching, but no. And when when you're fighting custody, obviously there's kids involved. And I'm of the belief that if you have $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, put it towards your kids' future. It's just, I don't know. I don't get to dictate that for everybody, but, I'm also, very financially savvy. I try to make sound decisions when it comes to spending money. And of course, everybody has their own, beliefs, convictions, etc. about that. But sometimes you just don't need to hire a lawyer. And if you do, if you think it's never too late. If you start out your case pro se and you decide to hire a lawyer somewhere along the lines, that's perfectly fine. It's easier actually to do that than to start out with a lawyer and then try to proceed pro se. Because what judges tend to do, lawyers just can't back out of a case. We just can't say, oh, I'm done. I don't want to represent you anymore, and don't show up. Don't justify it to the court. That's not how it works. We usually have to ask for permission to leave the case unless, and it depends on your state, unless there are some explicit reasons why it's a conflict of interest, or it's antithetical to some sort of, court rules or whatever. But, lawyers just can't decide tomorrow, you know what, I don't want to represent you anymore, and I don't have to answer to you or anybody else. It doesn't work that way. So it's harder to say, you know what, lawyer not going to represent me anymore, and I'm going to proceed per se. That's harder than for you to do the former, which is starting out pro se and, hiring a lawyer at any phase or stage of your case. So what's the harm? I know a lot of people are intimidated by the law. They're intimidated by or overwhelmed by all the things they need to learn or need to know. Honestly, unless there's going to be an issue with custody, and I'm not talking about just who gets more days. I'm talking about whether or not you really think your child or your children are safe in your ex's or soon to be ex's home without you. That's different. That's a real contested custody issue. That's different. you may want to at least consult with attorneys, 3 attorneys, if that's the situation, if that's your particular circumstance. But and the other time is when either one of you are self-employed, and or valuation of property is going to be an issue. Valuation, locating income is going to be an issue. What we call commingling of marital assets is going to be an issue. Those kind of things, you might want to have an attorney represent you, because sometimes they're going to have to employ other experts to help you, or to help them get the best, provide the best representation for you, and to get the best outcome. And I say this as a little aside, and if you really think your case is going to go the trial track as opposed to the mediation or settlement track, yeah, you might want to start out with an attorney. And that's a whole nother topic, because sometimes you don't know. As a layperson, you don't know. No matter what, at least consult with a few attorneys. Attorneys do free consultations all day, every day now, whether it be through video chat, they do it online now, like via email. You could go to their office, they could do it over the phone. It doesn't hurt you to at least try to get some free consultations, whether you decide to do it yourself or not. Okay. But I don't think it's an automatic. And, a lot of times when I tell people this, they think and I'm talking about litigants, parties, they think I don't know. I don't know what they think my angle is. But I'm just me. I just call it as I see it. Sometimes it's just not. Sometimes, sometimes lawyers make your case much more cantankerous, antagonistic than it needs to be. Sometimes they are the ones that create the conflict. They are the ones that cause the case to drag on longer than it needs to be. Sometimes you can get a settlement much quicker and much more favorable if you do it without attorneys. Now, if you do that, before you submit anything to the court, you should have an attorney review it and look at it. And yes, that's unbundled services. Everybody's doing that now. 2020 brought out so many innovators, so many creative ways of, what they call partial representation or unbundled services, which is something I offer at the Divorce Solutionist. I do unbundled services. I do review agreements. I review petitions. I review summons. I review answers. I review motions. I draft motions. When I say I mean I have independent contractors who help me do this. But yeah. So if you decide that, after you've had your consultations, that, you know what, I want to take this on myself. If you decide that, after your 3 consultations, yeah, sure. Just negotiate your settlements, work out your agreements amongst you and the party. You can also get someone like myself who could actually serve as a negotiator. You can hire a mediator. You don't have to go through the courts to work with a mediator. You can actually just go and hire a mediator. You can do collaborative as well. That's an option. But the point is, you can actually, there's other ways to proceed than to hire an attorney and go through the court and fight for years and years and years in expense. Someone told me the other day that they were up to, I was in a barbershop with my son, and I don't know how we got on the topic, but there was this guy there, and I was telling him about what I do, and he was about to start law school. But I don't know how we got on the topic of him fighting for custody of his son. And he said that he won custody, but he said that his son's mom had a team of custody lawyers. They weren't married, had a team of custody lawyers, and it cost her $280,000 just for custody. And she still lost. Because just because you're spending all that money doesn't guarantee you anything. And I'm sure a lot of you can attest to that. Getting the most expensive lawyer, the most popular lawyer, the lawyer who has the billboards all over the place, the lawyer that everybody tells you to use does not guarantee you anything at all. At all. So use discernment. Okay. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Don't just willy-nilly just go into a highly contentious divorce or highly contentious custody matter and not at least consult with lawyers. Do not do that. Or hire lawyers for limited representation. You can do that. Just do not just go blindly in it. Oh, well, I'm going to go to law school one day, and so I think I could do this on my own. No, you may not want to do that, because a lot of times appealing decisions that you don't like is way more expensive and way more complicated and way more, it's harder to find a lawyer to handle that than you just, deciding to use some good judgment and at least working with an attorney in some capacity before it gets to that point, if you know what I mean. Facebook use 100. Yes. Yes. So do I recommend a lawyer? It depends. It depends. I don't think it's across the board. I just don't. It's not an across the board thing. It's not. It's not. Can you trust lawyers? You know what? I can only speak for myself. I will tell you, and I hope no one who can report me will repeat this. When I did have a full caseload, I didn't lie in court, but I would tailor the truth if it meant getting what my client wanted. Okay? So if that means you can't trust me, so be it. I was more concerned about, of course, being ethical, but I was just as equally concerned about getting my client what they wanted, as long as it wasn't unreasonable. If I had clients who were addicts, and they would say, oh, what, I want full custody. And I knew in my heart that that wasn't the best for the kids. I wouldn't overlook that. And I would try to be candid with them about that. And if we butt heads about that, I would respectfully bow out. But for the most part, if my client wanted, joint custody with 100% physical custody, and, every other weekend to the dad or the mom, and, the judge would say, you know what, they're leaning toward, what the dad want as opposed to what mom want, I would go in there and say what I think I need to say to get my client. If I'm representing the mom, I don't know why. I'm not a sexist. I represented both. I would go in there and say what I think I need to say to get my client, the mom, what she asked me to get her. And so if that means you couldn't trust me, hey, you know what? I didn't lie. I would just tailor the truth. We were taught that in law school. That's the game. It's a game. You tailor the truth. You customize the truth. You package the case. I packaged my case to be presentable, to be persuasive, to be favorable, to prevail, to succeed at getting exactly what I set out to get. Can you trust lawyers? You shouldn't trust a lawyer who promises you anything. I don't care who it is. If they promise you something, I mean, they give you 100% promise that they're going to get you an outcome, chances are there's some other reason why. And I won't go into that. But I don't care who it is. Any lawyer who tells a client or potential client, I promise you I can get you this, I would not trust them. And they may be right. I just wouldn't trust them unless you just don't care what they have to do to get you exactly what it is they promised you. But suppose they don't get you what it is they promised you. It's nobody's fault but your own. You can complain to the bar, but that's about it. You can't. What else are you going to do? Because they're not going to make that promise in writing. They would never put that in writing. They're only going to do that verbally, because we know, lawyers know that we can't make you promises. We can't do that. Not in these kind of cases I'm talking about. They can make you a promise in a personal injury, oh, I promise you that I'm going to only take a third. Yeah, of course, that's all you're entitled to take, or 25% or whatever the law is in your state. But if a lawyer says, I promise you, I'm going to get you sole custody, no visits to dad, anything against public policy, anything against your particular jurisdiction's customary practices, anything that is totally atypical for where you are in your kind of case, no, I wouldn't trust that kind of a lawyer. And I'm being very candid. That's me. I call it as I see it. But the lawyers that you can trust or you should trust are the ones who are transparent. They tell you what's going on in your case. They keep you aware and abreast of what's going on in your case. Even whether you ask for it or not, they keep you updated. Number one. The lawyer who tells you, you know what, I'm not going to make you any promises, but this is what it has been known to happen in cases like yours in this particular jurisdiction with this particular judge. What kind of lawyer can you trust? The kind of lawyer that says, you know what, I don't really know exactly how this judge is going to rule because I've never been before him, but I can tell you that this is what I'm going to try to get for you. What kind of lawyer can you trust? The one who don't pad their invoices and their bills, who doesn't give you a $10,000 invoice when they have done nothing but file a petition and a response. I can go on and on and on, but I think those are the most important ones. One thing I'm big on is body language, though. So I recently decided, when I first started consulting and coaching, I was only doing audio calls. I recently decided to do video calls now. One, because I'm 100% virtual, but also because I'm big on body language. I'm very spiritual, so a lot of things for me is energy and vibes and my intuition. So a lot of decisions I make, the direction I move forward in, not just for me, but for my clients too, depends on body language, energy, vibes, a whole lot of things that has to do with, more than just what you're telling me on the phone. And I'm saying that because if you can get in to meet with an attorney face to face, you should definitely take advantage of that. Sometimes you can get a sense of them over the phone, but most of the time you can get a better sense of them in their natural environment, in their office or wherever they're practicing out of. You get to see the pictures that are around. You get to see any accolades. You get to see their desk. You get to see how their administrative support staff interacts with them or other attorneys interact with them. You get to see how busy they are. You get to see how they talk to other clients on the phone if the phone rings while you're there. You get to see so many things that should help you make a decision whether or not this is the attorney you can trust, that you want to work with, that you can put your your life or death situation in the hands of, and so on and so forth. So I'm not big on, this guy came highly recommended from 3 other people who went through a similar situation and they had him as their attorney. I don't care about that. You know why? Because sometimes, I know for me, the way I interacted with each of my clients depended a lot on who that client was. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how I operated. If you told me what your expectations are from the start, I'm going to try to meet you there. And your expectations may be different than client B and client C. So my interaction with all three of you may differ. Now, I am who I am, but based, again, I'm going to incorporate what you expect of me is going to reflect in how I interact with you. And that, whether an attorney admits that or not, that seems to be true for a lot. Now, I will tell you, I'm not friends with a lot of family law attorneys. I'm not, because I just don't. I do what I do based on what my own beliefs and values and things like that. And not to say that, they're not, their beliefs or their values are any worse than mine or better than mine. I dance to the beat of a different drum. A lot of them are not my friends either. They don't, I don't know. I don't know what they think of me. I don't care. So this person said, am I naive to believe him, to believe the attorney? No. You will learn, though. And if you didn't know this, you know this now. You will learn. You will pick up some skills, some very important skills, not just dealing with the attorneys, but dealing with the judge, dealing with the court system, dealing with your ex. And this, because when your ex or soon to be ex, when litigation starts over divorce, custody, or whatever, they morph into somebody you don't even know. 2 areas of law where I tell people that people change like drastically: family law and wills and estates probate. People change. So you will learn. You will learn to toughen up. You will learn to listen better. You will learn to have patience. You will learn to have understanding. You will probably become a better parent. You may become a better sister, friend, aunt, daughter, whatever. You will grow. You will evolve. You will learn. You will. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. You will. And I say this because when I work with people, I want them to understand that. When you come to me and you expect me to go along with you just because you're paying me, no. I'm going to tell you, that thinking you have there is going to change. Whether you know it or not, you're going to change that thinking. You're going to change your perspective on that particular issue. Why? Because you'll understand how this is only going to do you more harm than good. And I'm very candid with people. There's some people recently who reached out to me to work with them. I refuse to, because they're of this belief that what they want, right, wrong, or indifferent, is something that I should work with them on getting no matter what. I'm not doing that. I do what I do because this is my calling, my life's mission. It's not because I need the money. It's because this is what I've been called to do. This is what, after years of soul searching, this is what I've been called to do. So I'm not going to let anyone come to me and say, you have to do this for me because I'm paying you. Never mind what you think. No, sweetie, take your money somewhere else. I don't need it. I'm good. I'm okay. Maintaining my peace is much more important. Staying aligned with my soul purpose is much more important than lining my pockets or, putting money in my bank account. I like money, but it doesn't dictate things for me. It doesn't compel me to work with people that I know that are just steadfast and say, no, I'm not going to change. This is how I think. This is how I'm going to think. This is how I've always thought. And I'm, who are just the antithesis of what it is I think, someone who's going through this process should be. And I don't like to judge. It's just that I have no problem saying good luck. I don't know how I got to that, but because I wanted to drive home the point that this whole experience will teach you some things about yourself. It'll teach you some things about your ex or soon to be ex. It'll teach you some things about life in general. It'll teach you something. It will teach you. It will evolve you. It will grow you. It will. It's inevitable. If it doesn't, then I'm gonna pray for you. That's it. So one of the things I also wanted to talk about is clients' rights. Every client has rights. You have rights. You have rights as a client, no matter who you're working with as a lawyer. Paid, pro bono lawyer, paid by the other party, you have rights. The American Bar Association has a set of model rules that most states use as a guideline or a basis to enact or develop their own set of rules. But those rules actually give each state guidelines of one of those rules as to what clients' rights are. And I think I posted it somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm going to actually put the link up in this video in the comments later, as soon as this is over. And not last week, 3 weeks ago, right before the Christmas holiday, I took 2 weeks off from Christmas to after New Year's. But before then, someone, I asked maybe 5 people, did they ever get a list of their rights, clients' rights from the lawyer? They were all working with lawyers, and they all said, no, what is that? And I said, when you signed your retainer, did you get something else that said clients' rights? Or was there something attached to the retainer? Was there something in the office? Was something emailed to you later? Did you get a welcome package? When I was in private practice, when someone retained me, I always sent them a letter in the mail summarizing what we were going to work on, how I was going to approach it, what the fees were, what I expected from them, a whole host of stuff. Sometimes if they didn't do it in the office, I included the a copy of their signed client's rights and responsibilities. Because just the way you have expectations of me, I have expectations of you. So each one of them said, no, what is that? And they were all in this country, America. And they were like, well, what is that? Can you tell me what that is? Can you tell me what it included? Like, what did it say? And I said, no, your lawyer should. And I didn't have a problem with that. It's just that I just thought that was crazy. So they had no idea that they could demand that their lawyer respond to them after trying several times to get some sort of status update. They didn't know that they had the right to reach out to the attorney in writing, demanding an update, demanding a call back, something to update them about the status of their case. They didn't know that. They didn't know that they had the right to review an invoice and question itemizations on their bills or their invoices. They didn't know that. One didn't know that she could actually not work with the lawyer anymore and get a new one. A lot of people actually think that. They think they're stuck with the lawyer, whether they're paid or free. You're not stuck with anything. This is America. You have rights. There's a Bill of Rights for a reason. So you're not stuck with a lawyer. You can always. Now, if you're concerned about changing lawyers or firing lawyers, as I mentioned earlier, that's different. But some of them didn't even know. They really thought they were stuck with lawyers. And some of them thought they were stuck with lawyers who were incompetent, who hadn't communicated with them in months, missed deadlines. And I'm like, the Bill of Rights, that's okay, forget about the Bill of Rights. How about the retainer? Did it go into details about, when you can actually demand follow-up, when you could, file a lawyer? No, they would say no. I don't remember that. Well, you should know now. You should have a Bill of Rights. If you don't, ask for one. Every single case I had, maybe when I first started, I don't know if I did, because some of it was a learning curve. But it protected me. It protects you, but it protects me as well. And it made things a little easier for me. If you're clear on my expectations of you, just like if I'm clear on your expectations of me, it makes things go a lot smoother. A retainer. Okay, forget about a Bill of Rights. A retainer. In the retainer, a lot of those answers should be there. How often does the lawyer communicate? How does he communicate? Does he bill you for communication? Is there a paralegal or a legal assistant that will answer questions when the lawyer is not available? Any of those things? Okay, forget about it being in writing, in the retainer agreement, welcome letter, Bill of Rights. How about having a conversation about those things? How about not just having a list of questions that everybody else is telling you to ask, but questions that will help you minimize these foreseeable issues coming up between you and the lawyer in the future? How about that? How about focusing on those kind of questions? How do you communicate? Like, how often will you update me on my case? Me, when I was in private practice, I would update and it was clear in my retainer, in my welcome letter, it was clear that I would update my clients on their case every time something happened. And it was explicit. If you didn't hear from me, that means there's nothing to report. And I did that, one, to minimize miscommunication, but two, to keep the expenses down. Because if every time you call my office and my paralegal talks to you and answer questions or talks to me, or every time they email me and ask me the same question, I have to bill you for that. I had to bill you for that. So ask those questions from the start and take notes. Hold them accountable. Take notes. It's your case. It's your money. Even if it's not your money, it's your case. I'm going to do a few more pointers. One thing I see often that I'm not a big fan of is I see people ask a lot of questions that are really of a legal advice nature, and they are lay people answering these questions. In one of the groups that I administrate, I got to figure out what's the right word, but I see that happening a lot, and I'm constantly reminding the group members not to do that. Not just the ones who are posting the questions, but the ones who are answering. And I don't answer them either all the time because I'm not giving legal advice in the groups. But sometimes I do answer the questions. But I remind people to not answer legal questions if they're not a lawyer. Even if you are a lawyer like me, there's some things you just can't answer because every case is different. I don't know your judge. I don't know your jurisdiction. I don't know the background. And even if you're telling me, I only know from your perspective. That's why there's always two sides, I don't know what the other side is. So no one can tell you definitively, that's a little disturbing, and then someone will say, this is a big one. People are always telling people when to withhold visits. And I'm like, no, don't listen to these. And I say it, I'm very blunt. I'm like, you're going to let a stranger tell you that it's justifiable for you to withhold visits. And when the judge doles out the consequences, the punishment for you doing that, this stranger won't have nothing. He or she won't have anything to offer. Not money to help you get out of that mess, not support, nothing. They're just going to be like, so why don't listen to these people? They can only tell you what they've experienced, but they can't tell you what a judge would do. And that's a very common question. Can you guys tell me what a judge would do? We don't know. We don't know. We don't even know who your judge is. We don't know where you are. We don't know what's been happening in your case. I always ask people, tell me what's been happening in your case. Let me see the last transcript so that I can get an idea of what the judge is going to focus on. Otherwise, I can't tell you that. No one can tell you that. No one can tell you that unless they've actually been involved in your specific case at some point or up until this point you're asking this question about. That is so misleading and can be so disastrous. I'm trying to look for one more. Does anybody have any questions? There was one other question that I had that someone asked of me that had to do with attorney representation. And I'm looking for that because I thought it was so on point, and I'm not going to find it. I have to figure out how to use my folders on my phone. I don't know. I'm not a tech savvy person. No, I don't know where it is. I'm going to have to figure out how to create folders on this phone so that I don't have to go through this all the time. I'm sorry. No. I don't know if it was something from, I don't know. Let me just look at a couple more and see if this is it. No. This is one. This is not the one I was talking about, but this is one. Where someone was asking what are the negative effects of hiring a new lawyer halfway through their case, and if it affected the outcome. Now, that's always, and I think I touched upon this earlier, but that's always a very, very strategic move you want to make in a situation where you're asking for like spousal support. Like I said, when you're asking for some sort of custody that the other party is totally against, and situations where anything that's been any case that's had a lot of conflict, or there's been like no negotiations, no settlement whatsoever. It's always a strategic move to decide whether or not you should actually get an attorney midway through a case. Why? I'm going to be honest with you. Most judges do not like pro se litigants. They don't. They don't because they have to slow things down. They have to tolerate things that they normally wouldn't, that lawyers know better than to do. They have to explain things a little bit. They know that they may be subjected to making appealable errors more so. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons, but most of them just do not. So much so that most states have actually promulgated rules and committees and, all kinds of vehicles to ensure that pro se litigants are treated a certain way, are afforded their rights, are things are made easier and more available for them because they know that. But still, judges just don't like it. So if you fire an attorney midway and you want to do pro se, not only is the judge not only may the judge be turned off by the fact that you fired a lawyer, because to them it's like, why are you firing your lawyer? Oh, your lawyer is the best lawyer in this jurisdiction. You're not going to get any better than this. Why are you firing him? No, I think they got a playbook that, where they know what to say in every situation, whether it applies, whether it's the truth or not, they do that. But when you decide to do that, it automatically puts a different spin on your case as far from the judge's perspective. It does. And some lawyers need to be fired. Some lawyers shouldn't have been retained in the first place. But that's another segment. But whether you should fire your lawyer midway, as I was telling you earlier, sometimes it's harder to do that than to start out pro se and hire a lawyer midway. Again, you have to use strategy. And I'm sorry I can't get into detail because, again, it's a case-by-case basis. And for me, strategy is case-by-case. Strategy is assessing everything. Your strengths. I use the SWOT analysis when I come up with a strategy. Your strengths. When I say your, I mean of the case. The strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And I put them all together and I come up with an analysis that actually only applies to your specific case. And choosing to fire a lawyer midway is something that I would actually absolutely want to use the strategic analysis to decide, to help you decide not if you should do it, how you should do it, and what you should do to ensure that you don't negatively impact your case by doing that. Screening lawyers is important. Screening lawyers doesn't mean just looking them up on the internet. It means going to watch them in court if you have that ability. I know it's different now because of COVID, but if you can watch them in court, if you can catch them in the office when there's another client there, while you're in the waiting area, or you're in the office with them and they're on the phone, you screen the client, you screen a lawyer that way. You screen a lawyer by meeting with other lawyers and maybe, cavalierly mentioning the lawyer that you're thinking about working with, not to ask them their opinion, but to just throw out the name and see how they respond, see how they react. That's the way to screen the lawyer. Screening the lawyer is very important. It's not textbook. It's using common sense. It's using, like I said, your intuition. It's using discernment. It's using, some facts, some knowledge, some experience, some referrals, some, all those things, but it's not in a bubble. It should be, in context. It should be a complete picture you create. Right? So it's 4:59. I didn't realize I was talking for that much. I still have so much more I can talk about. And maybe I'll do another one on this topic as well. If anybody has any questions, though, please feel free to leave the questions in the comments of the video. I'll get them. I always get the comments and the questions, and I try to answer them as soon as I get them. Again, if you need help, if you're pro se or if you're represented and you need help focusing on strategy, packaging your motion, your case, your relocation modification petition, your violation petition, contempt petitions, your whatever it is. If you need me to review them, you need me to help you prepare them, you need me to help you, communicate with the lawyer better, effectively, to get him, to light the fire under his or her butt. Whatever it is, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at thedivorcesolutionist.com. Or my business page, The Divorce Solutionist, on Facebook, on Instagram, my group, The Divorce Glow Up, my new group, Pro Se Divorce and Custody. DMs is okay. Emailing me at divorcecoachesq@gmail.com. I they can ran it all down. Look forward to the new membership subscription-based program, which will be a very helpful, very, very helpful, no matter whether you have an attorney or not. Again, because it's going to focus on strategy. It's going to help you help yourself. I'm going to teach you some things that are not typically taught to litigants, especially not from an attorney. They're usually teaching the law and procedure. I go a little bit more in depth, a little bit more, an analysis on how you can present your case so that you can get more wins. So anyway, it is 5:01. I'm sorry, I must go. It's been a pleasure as usual. Again, look forward to the new program. Visit me at all that stuff, all those places I just mentioned. Oh, and LinkedIn is the Divorce Solutionist on LinkedIn as well. Until next week,